Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghayril maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amen. That was the Al-Fatiha, the first chapter of the Holy Quran. With the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful, all praise and thanks be to Allah, most gracious, most merciful, Master of the Day of Judgment. Thee do we beach for help, thee do we seek for aid, and guide us on the straight path, the Siratal Mustaqim, not upon the path that wrath is brought down, nor those that go astray. Amen.
Amen.
Okay.
People are still languishing in prison for standing up, for us. Don't see the connections between the police spying on Black Lives Matter today and what they did yesterday with COINTELPRO, So we're just so very honored to have in our midst, in the flesh, Brother Sekou Odinga. Yeah. I mean, let's just give it up for him. And say who they are also before you get a few minutes to share. But there will be a public event, a big public event tomorrow at DC School of Law. But we thought it would be good if we could have just a little, private, intimate gathering as well. For those who don't know, I'm Nkechi, is my husband Dakari. And if you're part of the host committee, when I call your name, just give a shout out and whatever. Shout out words you like to use, but Salima Dofo,
Black Power Free the Land.
Black Power Free the Land, Jared Ball.
Peace, everybody. Thank you.
All right. And Paul Coates is not able to be here, but he has pledged a very generous donation. Paulette's.
Free all political prisoners. I'm with Jericho.
Netfa Freeman.
Good evening, everyone.
Nubia Kai.
She'll be right down.
Okay. Naji Mujahid. Sima Sadana. Marmy Salakhan's not here, but he sent a wonderful representative.
Masudrab.
All right. Brother Donald Temple, attorney and counselor at law. Brother Ray Wimbush. Benjamin Wood. All right.
Good evening.
So, Sekou Odinga. Well, first of all, let's go around and find out who's in the room, and let's just start with your wonderful wife. And, folks, just introduce yourself and just say one thing about whatever you want to say. Just one thing.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for being here. My name is, since you said one thing. My name is Dequi Keone Siddiqui, and I'm honored that you're here, and I thank you for being here. And thank you all for hosting us in your beautiful home.
And again, it's our honor. So just who is Sekou Odinga? Sekou Odinga was a U.S.-held political prisoner in prison for over 33 years for fighting for the freedom of black people and the building of the Republic of New Africa. He was released November 25th, 2014 into the arms of family, comrades, and friends. In 1965, he joined the Organization of Afro-American Unity, founded by Malcolm X. In 1968, he helped found the Bronx Black Panther Party and later went underground with the Black Liberation Army. He was arrested in 1981 and charged with involvement in the liberation of Assata Shakur from prison in the Brinks expropriation. Convicted in 1984, he was sentenced to a consecutive 25 years to life, state sentence, and 40 years federal. He is married to Dequi Keone Siddiqui and is the father of 8 children and 18 grandchildren. And with that, let's give it up for Brother Sekou.
Muslim, conscious citizen of the Republic of New Africa, semi-free political prisoner, like you said, a father, a grandfather, I'm truly honored to be here. I want to start by thanking Nkechi and her husband for inviting us here and this beautiful house and her beautiful home. Thank all of you for being here and giving me the type of welcome that you have given me. I just feel blessed. I'm blessed to be here. You all say how blessed y'all feel to be here with me. After 33 years, believe me, I feel blessed, or probably more blessed than you all do, to be here and to see you all. Some of you, like Nubia, who was writing me years ago, I've never seen before until she told me her name. Then I said, all right, I remember getting letters from comrades that I do remember. Mr. Patterson back there, I met Celine. I do remember Nkechi come, she greeted me like she didn't think I remembered her. I remember Nkechi and Ajua, that's what I remember. Nkechi and Ajua, doing the work that they did for me. So I'm just thankful. I met Brother, what's his name? Maury. I met Maury down in Baltimore a couple of months ago. So we spent some time together. So I say all that just to say thank you for inviting me here. Thank you for your welcome. I'm here, I think, to speak tomorrow. I'm not much of a speaker. You'll find that I'm short-winded. I don't really talk very long. But I will try to answer questions that people ask. I'm currently working to try to help bring brothers and sisters home that I left behind. Specifically, I'm working on the Abdul Majid Freedom Campaign in New York. He was supposed to go up to parole board in October this year month, but they set it off because he filed some papers that if he wins those papers, it will make his chances of coming home a lot more, not certain, but a better shot. He'll have a better shot of coming home. If he loses that case, then they'll have something, legitimate reason to say, oh, we're going to set you off because of this here. There's something that happened in the jail itself. So we're working on his case, and we're working on Jalil's case. He just called me the other day and asked me to help him put together a support committee such as the one I had, because my lovely wife here and my son, and they organized a support committee that did fantastic work. It's partly why I'm sitting here today. It helps. It really does help. So we really do need the help of you all and all that we can get to bring our political prisoners home. You know, Matulu Shakur, you know, that's one of my co-defendants that I've known him since he was a little kid. Wonderful brother, deserves to be here. You know, he struggled his whole life. I met him at 14, he was struggling. So I'm a little older than he is, so I was about 20 at the time, I think. But that's the caliber of brothers that we got in the joint, that they've been struggling their whole life for us. And we need to struggle for them. So that's the work that I'm committed to. That's the work I hope you all can, if not get committed to, at least commit some time to it, some effort to trying to bring them home. We say bring them all home. That's what we talk about, all of our political prisoners, prisoners of war. And it's so many more than you might know. It's a lot of brothers. We have 17 just from that was a part of the Black Panther Party movement, you know. I left the federal prison system in Colorado, Florence, Colorado, and there were so many brothers there that coming from other countries that this government just snatches people up in the streets over in Iraq or in Iran and understand, and say, oh, you support terrorism. Take them somewhere, torture them, try to get some information from them. And when they get finished on that, they bring them to the Southern District in New York and try them for either being a terrorist or aiding terrorism or something of the nature. And they always found guilty because they don't have no support. They don't have no, half of them can't even speak the language. They don't even speak English. You know? So this country is turning into almost a political gulag. Almost. I mean, we could honestly say it's a police state, and it would not be no stretch of the imagination. You know, anywhere else in the world, if we were to see this going on, cameras on every pole, cameras in every window, listening to our conversations on the telephone, watching us through the television. You know, we are living under a real police state. It's hard to say it anymore. A lot of times they say, well, if you can vote, it's not a police state. I have never seen nobody in there that I asked to vote for. So when they tell you who you can vote for, you ain't really got no choice. There ain't no choice. Anyhow, I'm here. I'm thanking you all. I'm happy to be here. I'm trying to save the few words that I do usually use for tomorrow. But like I say, I'm very short. You know, you all got probably the length that I usually go. I'm usually a 10-minute. I'm usually a 10-minute man. I think my brother told me that was a structure. That was a structure when I say I go 10 minutes. You know, so. But yeah, that's what I'm about to say. But if anyone had any questions to answer that, and that would probably lengthen it a little more for you if that's what you wanted.
How do we tell the story of the movement for the younger generation and really tell the story without there are people who are still walking around who have never been arrested or when the story is still ongoing, I guess you can say. How do you tell the story when the story is still ongoing? So how do you inspire and motivate in terms of things that went on in the past? Everybody's always curious about the liberation of Assata Shakur. But you can't really tell the story.
Well,
you know, there might be
some
people
of
in
it.
this very room. You just don't know. You know what I'm saying?
You can tell some of the story.
Okay.
Because the story, there's some of us like myself. I was convicted of going into the prison and bringing her out. I can talk about that because I've been convicted of it already. There's no, so I can say what they say.
Okay.
and some of what they say was true, you know. So, there's a lot of our story that we can tell, you know. We can talk about El Haj Malik Shabazz. We can talk about Kwame Toure and the work he did. We can talk about Imari Obadele and Imari Baraka. I mean, we can talk about our ancestors, our recently deceased ancestors, and give their history. And that should be motivating to our youth. I always tell our youth that it was young people that started those organizations. You know, Black Panther Party was started by college students. SNCC was started by college students. Max Stanford was a young man when he started RAM. We can go on. We can motivate them by telling them, just tell what we can tell. There's so much that we can tell. We have a long, rich history, you know. But one of the things we need to always make sure that we tell them is that we stand on other people's shoulders. Don't forget our ancestors. It didn't start in the 60s. It didn't start in the 50s. You know, we need to always take it back to Africa and bring it forward. What Vincent Harding talked about it is a river. Yeah, we need to talk about that river because they need to understand, our children need to understand that this is something that's ongoing, that is going to keep on going until well, it ain't going to never stop, but we need to bring it to a point where we are, I think it was a guy was saying that we're in control of our own lives. No, it wasn't the guy. It was we was watching
Geronimo.
Geronimo. We was watching Geronimo tonight.
Thank you, though.
And that's what he was saying. But and it's true, you know. So as a conscious citizen of the Republic of New Africa, I do believe in land and independence. That's part of what I struggle for. When they say, "Well, why are you fighting? What are you doing? What's your goal?" We have a lot of long-term, short-term goals, but that is the long-term goal: to be to have to be a part of a independent nation of Africans, African descendants, because we are a new African people. If you go over to Ghana, if you go over to Tanzania, if you go to different countries, I've only been to a few of them, but we are different. And when you see us walking down the street, and you be in Africa and you see one of us, you say, "Oh, he's from America," because we are different. That's not no knock on nobody, but it's just to say that we are a new African people, and we should recognize that we are a new African people. And of course, I don't know how many of us have actually asked to be citizens. They told us we were citizens, you know, and some of us just didn't cop to it. Some of us said, "No, we don't want to be. There's nothing about this country that we're proud of. We don't want to be associated with the theft of the Native Americans and the murder of the Native Americans and the slavery of the Africans and the theft of the Mexican people and on, you know." So, I'm saying a little more than I thought I was going to say. But to answer your question, there's a lot we can do to motivate our children. And one of the things definitely is to teach our history. We can teach our history. We can talk about some of our history. We can't tell everything that everybody did because we don't even know what everybody did. I mean, I'm sure there's some of y'all in this room that did some things. How they telling us? Ain't gonna tell us. And then you don't have to. It's a need to know basis here. You know, what you did that somebody gonna get you in trouble, you don't need to tell it. You need to keep that to your damn self if you're smart. You know, excuse my French or my African. You know, but really, I mean, that is a part of one of the problems I see today is that we do too much talk. We put too much thing on that media. You know, you're telling everything. You don't need to tell everything. Some things need to be said. Some things don't need to be said. You know, so.
And can I say something?
You can always say something.
I just want to say, because I'm an educator, I work with high school students and college students. And one of the things that I do is help students, because I've always had students say, how could they do that? How could they do that? And when Sekou said about teaching history, bring in the past so that it relates. Like to show them that there's not any difference. And I was just, when he was speaking, I realized that I didn't bring our posters, right? Because we have posters with pictures of political prisoners. You can wear a button, because I wear buttons. So somebody will ask me, who is that on that button, right? Put a picture of a political prisoner. Wherever you are, in your car, on the back of your car window, on your door. Well, y'all are fortunate. Y'all live in a house, right? We live in an apartment, right? But like even in our house, when people come to our home, they see pictures of political prisoners. His parole officer came and asked him because we had a painting of Marilyn Buck. Who is that? Right? So it's all those kinds of ways to make it relatable, and because we're visual people and with young people, I didn't bring my CDs. Paulette, can you get that African print multi-bag in the living room?
Sure.
Right? One of the things that we did for Sekou, and we're still doing, because as Salim said, with
the invention of cell phones and camera footage all over America of police brutalizing black people, killing black people, and the rebellion in Ferguson and Baltimore with a whole new generation of young people who don't necessarily have a political ideology. What advice would you give to politicize those young people who know that police brutality is wrong, but they're not necessarily conscious?
I don't know about what we can do to politicize them, other than teach, you know, like we politicize. We have to teach the truth. We have to talk about what's going on in the community and what's happening to them, and how does that affect the whole. You know, most of our youth, they know somebody that's been shot, been killed. We have to talk about the violence of blacks on black. You know, I lost a son when he was 19 years old to the murder by a 16-year-old. You know, we have to try to first kind of get them to understand that they are a people. We have a real problem, us New Africans, even recognizing that we are people. A lot of times we talk about we are black people, but if you ask a number of black people, you stop 10 black people in the street and ask them what they are, and I bet you'll get 6 different things. You stop 10 Chinese in the street, you'll get one thing. They're Chinese. You stop Italians, they tell you they're Italian. You stop everybody else know they somebody. So we have a real struggle to let our kids even know who they are or what they are. You know, a lot of them, they'll tell you, I'm not black, I'm American. You know, what about America do you like? You know, and kind of give them some history on America and some social studies, as we call it, on what's going on today. You know, right here in America, like he was saying about all these murders. That's nothing new. That's we could easily go back and show where that's been going on forever. You know, do that. And make that connection, and we have to do that, you know. So I think that's one of our big challenges there, is to first kind of get our children and ourselves, because a lot of adults are the same way. They don't know who they are, you know. That's why their kids don't know who they are, you know. So even though my concentration would be on the children, because most of them old heads is lost already, you know, but they need to hear the truth also, you know, because some of them will turn around. Some of them will say, damn, that's right, you know. What is it that I like about America?
Can I just say, Kwasi, there are a couple of sisters there, Ia Marie sitting up. Can you come up and, well, I know Kwasi will give up his seat. Ia, come on, Ia Marie, please.
That's what it's scared.
Ia Marie.
Did anyone else have any questions?
Hold on, she has a red bag. If you got a red bag in the other room.
Oh,
We was watching TV.
okay. Seema, can you get the red bag in the TV room?
It's a little red leather bag.
Okay.
I heard someone say the other day that we all can't do everything. Everybody can do something. We in this room need to commit to do something. You know, everybody, if every new African, if every person of African descent decide that they're going to find something that they can do, and they're going to keep trying to do it, they're going to try to help make that happen, something positive. This would be a better. We'd be in a better position, you know. We do need to start committing to doing something. Everybody ain't gonna do the same thing, and everybody ain't gonna commit to the same thing. But we got so many needs. We can all find something that one of these needs that we can commit to. You know, that whether it be housing, whether it be police brutality, whether it be education, whether it be hunger, whatever. It's so we can go on and on and on. I know everybody in here could think of at least 20 things that black people need. You know, let's commit to doing it. Let's, all right, I can at least help do this here. You know, maybe it's working through your church. That ain't. I mean, but doing something that's gonna help move us forward, and not be. What's up? I just don't.
Joe Patterson.
What's up? When they sneaking in, you know, I haven't seen these folks in so long. I don't even recognize them. I've just seen it. But anyhow, we can do so much, and a little bit is so much. You know, if it ain't nothing but commit to giving $1 every month, every week, to something, to an organization that you believe in, or political prisoners.
Yes, yes,
You know,
commissary.
You know, 'cause all of them need help, and we all need help. So definitely, or an organization that's working towards helping political prisoners. Jericho struggles, always is struggling to raise money. And as fast as they raise it, it's spent on political prisoners. So there's so many things that we can commit to, whether it be maybe get with one of them community organizations that's working with kids and commit to 2 hours a week to work with that community organization, or 3 hours or 5 hours, whatever you can do. But I'm just saying that we need to do something. That's what Malcolm used to say. We all need to do something. So let's kind of start thinking about encouraging our friends to do something. For most of us, I'm guessing is involved in something that's sitting in this here room here. But a lot of our family and friends aren't. Maybe we can encourage them to do something. Let's get involved. But that's what it's going to take. It's going to take some real struggle to free our political prisoners and to free our land and to free the new African nation.
Shay. I've gotten my instructions from Mama Nkechi. May I have permission from the elders to continue, please? No seriousness, Baba. I don't know the accuracy of this, and maybe you might be able to speak to it, but Bilal told us that you are having issues with Social Security.
Yes, I am.
Do you get Social Security?
I don't get nothing. Nothing. They don't even give me social service. Oh, yes, they do. They send me, I get food stamps.
Anybody else got a pen hand?
$194 food stamps.
Okay.
So I know that Key gonna stay by
We're
you.
getting you another one.
Right. But
Is
we
your
still
pen
gotta
ready?
On her shoulders, mostly.
As soon as
But we still
Tyrone,
gotta make a way
ma'am,
for the brother.
as soon as
Because
Tyrone's through,
our liberators, our freedom fighters don't get a pension.
you can put this back. These are
What'd
all
you come
right.
home with?
You joking, right? You playing games now.
I think we kind of in the room with people who know, but sometimes I don't really think that we really understand the depth of what it is. And then we talk about, not none of the people in this room, but you could take this message back. We have a strong appreciation for Sada Shakur, for a lot of people in the movement. But sometimes there are a lot of people behind those names, and we don't know who some of those people are that have given a lot and have given it all. How many children did you say you have? You have 8 children. You did 33 years. So that's 33 years away from his family, his friends. I don't know how many high school basketball games or proms or birthday celebrations you may have missed. How many grandchildren you have?
Last count we had about 26.
How was that one?
So he is building on the Republic of New Africa, but he's not able to see a lot of those different elements.
Try this one.
So
Hurry up. Fundraiser for Sekou Odinga.
Try to do the best I can. Thank you, Brother Lynn. Thank all of you.
All the host committee.
God bless y'all. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
We did have more folk come in.
One quick thing.
Crying brother, my brother.
Thank you, Nkechi. And thank you for hosting this situation here and inviting me to be a part of it. Thank you so much. She mentioned Sister Falani Sunni Ali, Falani Sunni Ali, who's a freedom fighter, who is in the hospital now. She had 2 aneurysms and some strokes, and went through a series of brain surgeries and operations. And talking with Bilal today, she's doing much better. For days they were taking her in and out of an induced coma and just watching her progress and seeing how she would be. And a couple of days ago, for the longest period of time, in that week or so, she was off of the sedation process, which of course is major progress in that kind of intense kind of surgery that took place. So in saying that she's doing much better now, they have already removed a drainage tube out of her brain that was very, very large. So again, this is major progress in terms of what's happening at this point. And supposedly today or tomorrow, they will take her out of that process of the coma altogether.
The coma was induced.
Yeah, it was induced, so that she could heal, in a process like that, because you don't want the body to be overworking. Go ahead. Go ahead, Bob. Go ahead, Bob.
To add to that, the family is asking for everybody's prayers and vibes and however you relate to the universe, send up some good vibes for the sister. If you pray for the sister.
Absolutely. And she has right. They have a GoFundMe site.
Yeah,
So you want to send
they have a GoFundMe site too, and they need it.
Right.
This is for Fulani.
Yeah.
Yes.
For Fulani. And Fulani again, who
She just lost her sister too.
Right.
She don't even know it. Her sister passed since she did it. Her oldest sister just passed Wednesday.
and her and her husband, of course, served time as a result of not folding or bending to the pressures of the powers that be.
He was tried. You was talking about Chokwe. He was tried on the same. He was one of my co-defendants. Chokwe beat the case for him. He walked out of the court.
And that's Bilal Sunni Ali Fulani's husband. Bilal was with Gil Scott Heron's Midnight Band back in the day.
And they locked Fulani up for contempt.
Grand jury resistance.
She was a grand jury
And the
resistant.
children got.
And the
So when you talk about family and what happens with family, the children got locked up. You see the picture of these little kids walking around with handcuffs on when they, busted Fulani and Bilal. So they don't care.
They used to live in this city too. For those who don't know.
Did other people have questions?
I was curious as to what your take on the Black Lives Matter movement is.
Oh, well, they ain't political, but I'm kind of encouraged with them because they're young and they're starting to see that there's some problems and they're trying to speak toward those problems. I think those of us who have a little more political astute, we got a little more political understanding of the political situation going on in this country. We need to help them grow. But I'm encouraged by them. I think they're a good example of where our youth are starting to go to now. I mean, there was a time when we wasn't seeing that. But in the last couple of years now, we're starting to see our youth trying to get involved.
Depression breeds resistance.
Yeah, exactly. Depression breeds resistance. And they're starting to resist. They just don't know how yet. So I talked to, what was the sister's name from? Patrice, one of the organizers of it. And that's why I say they're kind of apolitical. They don't really understand as much, but they do understand that there's some problems and they want to be part of the solution. So that's encouraging.
I have a question, bro. You kept referring to yourself as a conscious citizen of the RNA. Why did you stress that part, as being a conscious citizen?
Because I also said that I don't see why nobody want to be an American citizen. So you got to be something. but I wasn't stressing it. I was just making that as I was telling you who I was. That's just something that who I am. I consider myself a conscious citizen of the Republic of Africa. I fought for land and independence. I fight for land and independence. I believe in land and independence. I don't think we're gonna ever get to be equal citizens under the Constitution of this United States. I just don't believe it. Nothing that I've seen makes me believe that we're going to have to be that. Even now when we got a so-called black president or half black, whatever he is, whatever y'all want to call it. I still don't. I've seen things get worse since he's been in. I don't think he's helped at all. That's why I say I'm a conscious citizen of the Republic of Africa, because that's what I am, a conscious citizen of the Republic of Africa.
And if you're interested in the technical definition of that, I'd be happy to share.
Yes,
After political science, we'll have to learn that right now.
Yes, ma'am.
But I know exactly what because that's what conscious citizen.
Brother?
Yes, ma'am. For those of us who are engaged in the movement for Black Lives, I'm wondering, how do you think we could involve political prisoners in the movement in sort of a more concrete way? I mean, I know there are organizations that have established communications with them. And I'm thinking about Jalil Mukateen, who had reached out, you know, to the movement, who essentially wrote, you know, a letter to us in terms of what he's thinking, in terms like that. But again, I'm just wondering if you think we could involve political prisoners more concretely in the current movement.
That's one way right there. Writing them, asking them what do they need, what do they think that you could be doing, talking to some of your elders that's out here that's involved, asking them what do they think you can be doing, and politically educating yourself to what's going on, what's been going on, and getting involved in the whole political prisoner movement. Take that up as one of your issues. That we want all our political prisoners freed. So that means you're gonna have to find out what a political prisoner is, what in a real sense, you know, and why this country say there is no political prisoners, you know, in a real sense. You know. So I think that's how you can do it. And people like Jalil, Matum Shakur, Abdul Majid, those brothers, they waiting on you to write them. If you write them and ask them what you should be doing, you'll get all the information you want. They got things for you to do, and you can start doing it. Get involved. That's how you can make it happen, by actually doing it. You know, and that's how you do it, by writing them. That's the start. Start by writing them. And you can also contact other political prisoner organizations, you know, people who are already struggling. Move people, they got it pretty good. Mumia, Abdul Jamal, we got a pretty good one in New York. Sundiata got a pretty good one. You know. So that's how you get involved, I think, by actually getting involved.
I think one of the things is, you know, we make sure in New York that our political prisoners that are in New York, and there are quite a few, but we make sure that they don't go a month without a visit, right? Because that is to send a message to the state, to the prison guards up there and the prison administration, that we are coming to see people and they haven't been forgotten. And one of the things that we're asking organizations to do is to include the release of our political prisoners in whatever platform, whatever thing that they're doing, to include the release of political prisoners in it. And one of the ways of educating people is, if we're talking about police terror, which is how Black Lives Matter, then look at the Black Panther Party's 10-point platform and program. Number 7, right? We want an immediate end to police terror. But, yeah, they call it brutality. I say it's terror. It's past brutality, right? So, but so that it's relatable. Like, so the same conditions that called for the 10-point platform program are the same things people are fighting today. That's why they are political prisoners, and that's why you have to fight for these people who are behind the wall, because these people behind the wall were fighting the same things that you're doing now.
Right, the same fight.
It's the same fight.
It's that river we were just talking about earlier. It's the same fight.
Right.
Thank you both.
Anyone else?
No, I got another question. With the Black Lives Matter movement and the question around land, do you think that would help bring some more political definition and education to the folks if that was somehow an issue on the table? Because I remember, I think Hillary Clinton asked some activists, what is it that they want? And they gave a very vague answer. Like, I wouldn't like reparations, so I would have said something to that effect. But is that something that can move them from being an apolitical position?
I don't know if it would move them, but I think it would add to their political education, so I don't think it would be a bad thing. They need to understand that. Yes, there, Joe.
I just think on the level of political education is that Black Lives Matter or whoever, they need to be taught not to fear. Because the biggest issue, no matter what movement is that there's movement, but there's fear. Because the movement will be, to me, more powerful if that fear wasn't there. And I think that it needs to be in the intellectual institutions. I mean, even every day sitting at tables and meetings, it's, you know, people are afraid to speak, even on a just everyday level in terms of services that our black community and family needs. And I think that the Black Lives Matter need to take a stand to penetrate our educational institutions and telling our young people to stop going to college to be competitive and market themselves for nothing. And just titles and positions and homes, and they think that make them feel good. But it doesn't make them feel good. I mean, even my one visit to each one of them tormented all the way up to today. I mean, institutionalized, whatever. But I just see our young people that are in college, that their goal is to have a job and institutionalize themselves and not use their education to feed their own people. And then I think they really need to define Black Lives Matters instead of it just being a slogan.
Well, I think that's what they're trying to do.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I agree
say
with you.
something.
I'm not disagreeing.
And I'm not saying this to offend anybody, but I also feel that when we in our movement, we have to tell the truth. And as elders and our young people that are out here with these movements, we have to take a responsibility to tell them the truth.
That's right.
And not pacify.
I agree.
Thank you, sis. Brother?
Actually, she touched on it at the end of her comment. I was just gonna add what I see is one of those biggest issues, not only with the Black Lives Matter movement, but with the generation in general, is that there's a pretty serious generational gap that I feel like is developing. I don't think it's on the part of the young or the old folk, but I think we're not reaching out to our elders and looking, and I think that will give us some more political astuteness as well. We're not reaching out to our elders to hear those stories back from, you know, when the Black Panther 10 points were created, or when these stories or when these political prisoners were put in. We're getting emotional right now because we think this is wrong right now, and we're very emotional. But we're not looking at the roots of why it's wrong right now, coming from the 70s and the 60s. So we need to kind of get that information. It may be on our part to reach towards our elders and say, tell us those stories, tell us what we need to do. But as of today, the generational gap is getting very, very, very serious.
Are you involved with them, with the Black Lives Matter?
Not really with the Black Lives Matter movement, unfortunately. I'm trying to get more involved, but
they organized a conference up there in Cleveland not long ago, and a lot of older folks came to that, and they were able to
bridge that.
Not bridge it, but the start. You know, they were interactive.
They were included.
And so they need more of that. Maybe they can give a larger conference for that purpose of bringing the old and the young together, and then have the workshops where the different areas that they need to be dealing with. Those are some good suggestions.
And in teaching, because I believe in education for liberation, and that's what I tell my students. It's not just for you get the credential, but education is for your liberation. But I always talk about COINTELPRO, not just the people who are in the movement. Because our young people, I tell them that you are living the legacy of COINTELPRO. It's not just the political imprisonment of our freedom fighters, of people who were in revolutionary radical organizations, but it's the so-called war on drugs and the so-called war on terror, and it's having 2.5 million people in prison, and it's thousands of children in foster care, and it's the entertainment that they're the poison that they're listening to, all of that. So we print up cards to tell people what the points of COINTELPRO was, so that they can see. Oh, they wanted to make sure there was no coalition and growth of militant black youth. So they used the music industry to make sure. So when I talk to young people, I bring that to them so that they can see why it is the way it is by design and on purpose. Because people don't know. A lot of people don't know about COINTELPRO. We take for granted, people who know about it take for granted that people know. But what is that? COINTELPRO, what is that? So we have to make that a part of speak the name COINTELPRO every single day. Speak the name of political imprisonment every day. Speak the name of those political prisoners every day, right? Brother, you had a question?
Yes, I would like to kind of add to what he was saying. but from a different direction. Okay, it is a gap between us and the young generation, right? But, okay, they're too sick to come to us. So what we do is we go to them. And me and Dr. Kakaya, we did a program in 2012 in what's known as Simple City, okay? Right now, today, they don't call that area Simple City no more. They call it Ben & Terrace. They say that it's disrespect to call our living area Simple City, right? And Dr. Kakaya can bear witness. Two of those ladies, remember those two ladies that was leaving? Dr. Kakaya went and got them and stopped them. He said, "Oh, wait a minute. I'm getting ready to speak to issues that you need to hear." And right now, when I go up there, them two ladies, they say, "Where that doctor at that was up here?" They don't know his name, but they know that doctor. And so right now, we still in some of those areas working with those people, but we, the conscious black community, we got to go in those areas and we got to work with those kids, right? This summer, we went to like 12 public housing areas, right? And this was the theme of those kids. Man, I don't want to be doing this because there ain't nothing else to do.
Right.
And I'm talking about this is what they're saying in 12 public housing areas east of the river. So if we go in there, we have some people that we can work with right now, and this is the good part about it. They don't know nothing. Anything we give them is good to them. You dig what I'm saying? And they want something because we in there. I'm talking about every day we in them public housing areas dealing with those youngsters so much that that program, so we got, and I'm going to stop. Celine got a program, we feed the hood the first Sunday of every month, right? We took that program, Feed the Hood, first Sunday of every month. We took it over on 37th Street, right behind Eli.
Where?
37th place in the circle.
What they be doing in there?
You name it, they do it. They, you know what? This is their theme call. We come from the hill where we shoot, stab, cut, and kill. That's their theme call. And right now, we got it's the name of it is Dar at Tawheed Islamic Relief Workers. We just passed out about at least 300 pounds of vegetables. All of the ladies, and you know what one old lady said? She said, "Mister, I want to thank you for bringing this stuff up here." I said, "No, I didn't do that. They did." And this was her response. "Well, it's about time y'all did something around here." And she was like about 60 years old. Them youngins, they want to do something, but they don't know what to do. And this is the sad part about it. We are not going in those neighborhoods. Tell them how we was received, man.
Brother,
tell them.
The love was so incredible in terms of people being so hungry. And that's the issue. If people are hungry and you got something to feed them, they're going to eat out your hand. They're going to gobble it up. And I mean that. So the void, again, is not our fault. The void is 500 years as a result of 500 years of repression, slavery, so forth and so on. So as I was saying in the other room over there, that the issue becomes us going into the hood. Yango Sawyer, who of course supported the People Busing the Prison program. For you all don't know, Yango Sawyer's in the hospital now with some kidney issues, yeah. And, you know, and he had the Busing the Prison program that Matulu supported, you know, that we supported, that the movement supported, you know what I'm saying? Nia Umoja, the sister, was one of the founder members of that organization, and we lost a brother, mysteriously, Malik. Yeah, you know, mysteriously we lost him. But here we have a program where Yango and the community and all of us were paying for a bus, and people, all they had to pay was a nickel, a canned good, a sock, a piece of paper, an ink pen, get your butt on the bus, and we going to Pennsylvania, we going to Michigan, we going everywhere to visit brothers and sisters from Washington, D.C. and the D.C. metropolitan area or wherever. En route, we picking up people in Baltimore, you understand, to take those people, them brothers and sisters who ain't got a dime to go visit their folk, and then some of them, when they got there, as we know about the visitation process, wasn't even able to see them. Right. So they on the bus the next weekend, and the next weekend, and the next weekend until they got there. But the point that the young brother is making up here, and we appreciate that, we thank you for that, and we got to hear more you know, from the young brothers and sisters, as Sekou stated. You know, the reason why they're hungry is because of the culture that he fought for, black people, or whatever word you want to use. You know, what he fought for and continues to fight for is what we want to give our people. So if that's the case, we're talking about unity. But what does that mean? We're talking about a 10-point program and platform. There's so many different principles and concepts and ideologies that all of us have that we can implement. We got independent black schools in our community. We got healers in our community, etc. But the black people of the simple city, Ben and Jerry's, didn't know nothing about acupuncture until Yangle Sawyer brought me up there into a basement that was rat infested, a ping pong table that was lopsided, no ping pong balls, raggedy chairs, you know, and we wound up doing acupuncture treatment on 10 or 15 elders because we couldn't treat the young people because they had to get permission. And that's as a result of Dr. Matulu Shakur, who started the first black acupuncture clinic in New York in 1969, 1970. You know, people gave their lives for their clinic. They murdered our doctor. You know, so again, we got to make sure that we clear that even with the movement dealing with political prisoners, you know, dealing with the issues of racism, we got to talk about some of the things that happen with health workers. Right. You know, and how health workers, you know, are harassed, murdered, beat down. They killed 9 holistic practitioners in the last 8-9 months, mysteriously. 2 of them were black. You know what I'm saying? I'm a holistic practitioner. I already know the danger, you know, of doing what we do. And if you're a conscious holistic practitioner, that's double D. Because they know you don't care nothing about them and your commitment is to taking care of black people. So Matulu Shakur, again, who is due for release in February, alhamdulillah, you know what I'm saying? And inshallah, you know, so we want to make sure that we continue to do the work. And that work, as we say, is not just with what we do. As I was saying in the other room, we have to take whatever percentage that we can muster up and take it to the poor peoples, take it to people who ain't got nothing, the people who don't know how to read, don't know how to write, don't care nothing about no dashiki, no black name, no Sekou Odinga, don't care nothing about nothing because they don't know no better. So it's our gig to go in there with our fearless African culture, our fearless African culture. You remember, it was a time you nation go in the community, it was like, hey, brother, peace. Brother had on the dashiki, hey, brother, peace. You know, but they started wearing Malcolm X t-shirts selling dope. They started wearing kufi selling dope. So again, our work becomes even more crucial and important to go back and deal with the originality of things. What this kufi is about, what this dashiki is about. You know, how did it get away from us? It's that deep in our school. We did a program at Baba Zulu School a week or 2 ago. The brother who got fired from Howard, because his wife was sitting next to me as a holistic health practitioner. We doing a presentation in the community. Brother get kicked out of Howard because he teaching black stuff. He teaching hooga booga business. You know what I'm saying? That you can't do that. No. Howard, black school? No. General Howard was one of the craziest Indian killers and murderers in history. I mean, he was noted for it. He got awards for it. Okay, that's who Howard is, General Howard. So, of course, the school, you got to remember the spirit of these things. You know, the principles and the building blocks of these institutions. So we have to go into the projects. We have to go into the poor communities. We have to take a little bit of something to those people who don't have it.
Yes, right. And let me just add what you said about the holistic thing and when you mentioned Matulu. Thank goodness Matulu is a holistic health practitioner because about 6 months ago, he got some kind of spider bite or something, and they wanted to cut off his leg. And he said, no, we're not going to do that. Let us treat it. And thankfully, that's what happened. He treated it, and his leg was not cut off. But they wanted to cut his leg off. And if he didn't know that there was an alternative, they would have taken his leg. So that's a very good point.
The papyrus papers, you know, again, everything is African. The papyrus papers has acupuncture points on them. Am I right, sister? The papyrus papers have acupuncture points on them. Not the meridian system, just some points on the end, some points on the body. You know, so again, everything comes from us. Matulu Shakur knew that. I met him in 1972. I was a kid, 18 years old, in Michigan. I'm sorry, in the Black Caucus had their first political convention in 72 in Gary, Indiana.
You won 18.
How was I? Thank you. So, as a kid going up there, being influenced about revolution, because of my history in the hood and in the community, and I having a daddy. I got the same story, all black. You know, again, meeting this brother up there, and the way that I met him made me connect with him because they had taken over the whole convention. I said, well, who these dudes? I said, I like these dudes right here. They took the conference over, and Matulu was talking about the importance of alternative, what they call alternative medicine, I'm sorry, talking about community medicine, talking about using acupuncture to deal with the major issues of drug and alcohol addiction in our community. 1972, the Clintons was already rolling though. They was doing the do. You know, and I'm like, boom. I had saw acupuncture 2 years prior to that in the only Afrocentric drug treatment program, Washington, D.C., RAP Incorporated, being done by Asian in 1970, and I thought they was out of their mind. 2 years later, I meet the person who trains me, and I take what he did, and we started a whole nother collective. And we've trained many, about 50 or 60 people around the country to do what Dr. Matulu Shakur initiated in 1969, 1970. That's the work that has to be done. Those acupuncturists, a lot of y'all know Ami Yamashe, Sister Brother Koye, Sister Freedom. It's a lot of them that are out there doing acupuncture out in the community because of Matulu Shakur, not me, but because of Matulu Shakur and him teaching that process and making sure that he dedicated his life to ensuring that black people would not suffer from drug addiction. 600 to 800 people a day came through Lincoln Detox. Can you imagine 600 people getting acupuncture? In one day, 6 days a week, from 8 in the morning to 7 in the evening, and the police come around beating up our clients with sticks, the labor, all these different, again, people have committed their lives to ensuring that black people would get the help that they need.
Okay, Brother Kokai, hold on, we'll make sure we do that. Let's hear some closing words that you might have. And by closing, I don't mean we have to just, what I really mean is that we can decentralize to other parts of the, house. But those who have...
Baba Kalechi, Brother Odinga, much gratitude to you for your sacrifice and the work you've done for us and the time you put in for us all these many, many years. Just real briefly, I wanted to speak on something. We need to be careful not to create differences and barriers where they don't exist. In terms of the Black Lives Matters thing, we talk about Black Lives Matter as a movement that's different from the Black Power movement. It's the exact same movement. It's just a different name for it. This generation has a new name for the Black Power movement. But we talk about what they're doing like it's something different, like we can't relate to it. Like this is their generation's thing. Like they got something new. There was no Black Power organization. There were several organizations. There is no Black Lives movement group that you join. It is the same consciousness, it's the same work, it is a continuation of the work that so many have sacrificed for already. So when the older generation gets that, then you change that language, change the way you talk about it. What are they doing? How come they're not? There's no they, it's us. The Black Lives Matter movement is the Black Power movement. It's the exact same movement. Just a younger generation. So if you were plugged in back then, you still plugged in. If your organization is working for political prisoners 20 years ago, 30 years ago, Black Lives Matter falls right in. Who are the political prisoners that we're talking about? It's the same people. So there is no need to add that to the agenda. That is already part of the agenda. So there's no need to create false hoods. Exactly, because and when we do that, the media always creates. They always want to name Generation X, Generation. They want to name stuff different things. But we know we're talking about the same thing. It's the same work. Whether your organization ever heard of Black Lives Matter before, if you're working towards empowering black people, you are already part of that movement. It's the same movement. So let's just be careful so we don't buy into their fictional falsification of differences between us, because that actually hinders our work. And once you recognize that, then we don't realize there is no division between our generations. We're just simply working here and working there.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Quasi.
I just wanted to say, as being one of the older members, being around for many years, some people know who I am historically, and some people don't. I go back to Oakland, California. We were the original group that started the band was in Oakland. Part of RAM, part of, so we go back that far, I joined the movement in 1958. And we put out a publication called Soul Book. I don't know, some of the older may be aware of Soul Book. It was the original, we did the first translation of Diop's work, for example. And, but that's neither here nor there at this point. And also responsible for the first Afrocentric school in D.C., which was called New School of Afro-American Thought, which started in 1965 in this town. You can go on YouTube and get a documentary of that, history of that. But and then I now do a lot of writing and talking, whatever. And I have a place called the Moja House. Everybody knows that, right? Here in D.C. And we put out the Kwanzaa calendar and do this and we do. So I've been around a long time, and it's my honest feeling that in terms of black unity, in terms of struggle, in terms of movement, we need to consolidate the independence movement. There's an independence movement and there's an assimilation movement. The assimilation movement leads to a Barack Obama. The independence movement, which is we haven't figured out what form our independence will actually take. There are many choices. There's what Garvey gave us, There's what Malcolm talked about, but there's always been two movements. There was always been the movement that says we're a part of America and we need to fight like hell to be a part of America, which to my way of thinking and to many of your way of thinking is a way to cease to be our own people, cease to be, it's a way to give away our identity. The movement that we're talking about is a way to take our traditions prior to colonialism and slavery, create an identity that can take us to the future as a people. That basic concept, the idea of some kind of unity, some kind of color, as black people around the world. What the Chinese have done now, everybody, what you notice is not the Chinese are no longer communists. The Russians are no longer communists. But they use that to create, they take their identity and produce a strong people. They are now a very strong people. They're in no way Marxist-Leninists. They're in no way scientific. Anybody who deludes themselves to think so is out of your mind. The Chinese are for the Chinese. All the socialist countries of the world have become nationalist. They've become nationalist. That's what the world we live in. That's the world that a clear thinking person sees when you look out there. You don't see a Vietnamese communist. You see a Vietnamese. You see a Russian. You don't see a Russian communist. You don't see a China. You don't see that anymore. Because ultimately people want their people, their identity to rise above, to become strong, to be less oppressed, etc. The idea of a third world, nonsense. What was the first world was the white man and Europeans. The second world was the Soviet Union and its allies, where they joined the first world. The third world was supposedly the Chinese, the Vietnamese, people of color. Well, they've joined the first world too, So we're left alone. We have not brought our analysis to the reality of our lives. Our reality is that we're in it alone. That Pan-Africanism can't really include the Arab North. Black Marcus Garvey's vision of a united black people. Black power is united black people. And that's kind of the world we live in. Sorting that out, bringing us into the 21st century, saying to our people, we're going to create something for ourselves. We're going to create an independence movement that you can be a part of. That our masses of our people can join our independence movement. But our independence movement has to come together. We have to unite ourselves around independence and make a clear distinction that says, no, we're not here to produce Barack Obamas. We're not here to support the white man system. We're not here to support, we're here to elevate our people. And our people have a collective identity which we have to pull together. We're still in the process of pulling that collective identity together. That's why we think Kwanzaa is so important. Kwanzaa is the only thing, and I come out of the tradition of California. Northern California, two things happened in California. Everybody in California who called themselves a nationalist in the 50s belonged to something called the Afro-American Association. In the North, we broke away and became the Black Panther Party. In the South, Karinga broke away and became what he became, the creator of Pronter, US organization. Both of those breakaways from both of that have produced much of the movement that we see. Both has happened. It came out. I come out of that tradition. I come out of the tradition that happened before that breakaway from that produced Kwanzaa and produced revolutionary nationalism. Revolutionary nationalism says, you know, we're going to go to war. That was a revolutionary nationalism. That's the part. That's what we came out. That's what we produced. That's what we said. Now, being honest, we were naive. We weren't going to, you know, we weren't going to take a few guns and beat the white man at that point. That was terribly naive. But we thought we could do it. That's hard to remember. I would say the spook was set by the door is the story of nationalist cadres.
They're banned that.
Yeah, but I mean, the reality. That's my generation. I know that's the brother's generation. We come out of that generation that says we're gonna get a gun. We're gonna go with other black people. We're gonna organize, and we're gonna bomb them up, shoot them up, kill them up, and we're gonna win. And we were inspired by the Cuban Revolution. The Cuban Revolution, when they won, we said we can do the same thing. Naive. That's what we said. When I was 17 years old, 16 years old, that's what we were saying. Now, that was crazy. That was crazy. Now, I'm telling you, that was crazy. That didn't make any sense. But we believed it, and we attempted to do it. But some of us are still alive. Some of us have gone there. Some of us are still here. Some of us are still trying to go back and say, where are we going? What are we doing with this? We need an independence movement that is united, that says to our people, we're capable of defeating and winning and creating a world in which black people have power. Black people can pursue their own interests. Black people can achieve things for our people based on our identity that precedes colonialism and slavery. And identity. So that's who I am, and that's what I believe, okay? And I give my homage to the brother. You know, he's got as much gray hair as I do, and I respect all of them. We know we come out of the same tradition. And most of these people, Brother Kakai knows me very well, you know, in the work I've done in the community. So I'm still here, and I can still talk a lot of stuff at age 72. So you'll probably see me a long time, and I'll probably be a thorn in your sides a long time. But that's cool, all right?
I don't think it's a division. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not a division. I think that we just have to be very conscious. I do think overt racism exists, and that we have to come together and be conscious. Institutional racism exists, and we have to be conscious. I grew up in a community that was unified, and it was nothing for me to come home and see civil rights leaders in my house because it was a safe house, with my mother being in the movement. And it brought my awareness up at a very early age. And Brother Sekou has met my mother. I think it made me conscious, it made me aware, but I also misplaced my values at some point. And I think we have to regain that. You know, we talk about not respecting the elders, but we need to respect the elders. We need to definitely respect the elders, because our values with these youth are the code of ethics. The code of ethics. It's disturbing. I work with the Department of Corrections, and it bothers me. I'm a social worker. I go in every day to work with women. They don't even want to deal with the women. They got so much trauma going on at a very early age. I don't even want to go there. But even the brothers got the conscience. But the cycle of the recidivism rate of them keep going back and keep returning and don't realize this is enslavement right there, and they're not conscious. I mean, the drugs infiltrated our community because that was a way to divide us. Right. Black destruct civilization of our people. Right. And we keep, our black men are emasculated every day. We gotta, I mean, regardless of what, I praise you, sister. Because he's struggling, he's a good man. Oh gosh, you know, I mean, they had circles of many days and indict me and Kakai. And I be looking at him like, who the hell y'all think y'all are coming up in my house and I don't even know your government name? But the point is, he was conscious, he was direct, and he was very politically conscious, him and Brother Matula. But I was very outspoken. But the point is, I'm just saying, we have to start somewhere, saying, Kofa, go back and fetch our past. We have to start talking about what we're going to do and make action. We have to do something. From teaching our families, our children, our grandchildren, we have to make a difference in our communities. We can't depend on nobody else. We got to be like we used to be. The neighbors watched out for our kids. It's not like that. Our communities, nucleus family. It ain't about us coming together. I miss that in my family because the elders are dying off. We have to make a difference. We could talk about it, but we need to make a difference. And not just the young people. The Black Lives Matter definitely matters. Diversity. We need to be conscious. And we got, like Farrakhan said, we got to help ourselves first. We got to help it's no problem in helping others, but we got to be conscious of what we need to do for our community, for our families. Especially people that look like us, that keep going back to jail, and some of them ain't getting out. And these young boys, oh my God, I don't even want to talk about it. I'm trying to make a difference, but I hate going in that institution every day. But I know God got me there for a purpose.
Right. Okay, so Quasi, and then
Very good. You weren't supposed to be quiet. You were supposed to
So Quasi, briefly. Okay, I know you mad at me. No.
Let me speak. Okay? Just let me speak. Because we talk about unifying, yet we see them kill our people in the streets right here in this city. And we do nothing.
Teach.
They kidnap our children. Our child disappears. We get no explanation, and we do nothing. We have police. We have transit cops pretending to be police in our communities. And they're harassing our children, locking our children up, and we do nothing. We talk this talk, but we're not doing what we need to do where we are. And that is the problem. And we're dealing with our youth, because they're not seeing us out there. Out there defending them, out there raising hell, out there understanding what in the hell is going on here. When I meet with young people, I ask them, have you ever heard of Jim Crow? They say, Jim who? Jim who? And I take them down to D.C. Superior Court and point to that judge, that's Jim Crow. I point to that bailiff, that's Jim Crow. This system is Jim Crow. We have to educate our people by actually doing the work right there in our communities. When they kill these young men, when they kill these young brothers around here, we can't just sit there and let them investigate. No, we need to investigate. We need to indict. We need to try. We need to put these people on trial. That's educating our community. That's empowering our community. Right now, we don't have no power. Everything is about going to the man. You know, we go to the man. What's your demand? I have no demands of him. My demands are of us. What are we going to do? What we going to do? I don't give a damn. We know what they going to do. So that's me. That's what I feel. When we keep talking about unity, unity is a working thing. It's a real thing. It's something you plan. You know, and you know, the work y'all brothers doing in the community, that's beautiful. Let's unite that with the issue of justice. Justice. I mean, it's come out that the FBI lied in the Atlanta child murders. Yeah, we don't demand that. Let's demand something of ourselves to demand something.
They was doing research on them kids.
Yes, and we don't know how many they killed. We don't know how many they killed. And then when they Sandra Bland, that sister was kidnapped and murdered, and we let them say that she was arrested. And Baltimore, we're letting them play these games, these mental games on us by prosecuting all these cops. When we know that brother was hurt, was injured by them 3 white cops. Yet they're getting a lesser charge. And we say, okay, well, at least they're prosecuting. We got to stop that. We got to stop that. We're being bamboozled and we're letting them do it. So when we speak to the young people, we got to tell them, no, it ain't about that. That's what I do when I deal. It ain't about that. And I show them a different way. It's about us empowering ourselves, empowering our youth, giving them the information. I did that with your son. Your son used it, didn't he?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's all
Two last things. One, check out Tupac Shakur. Him and Mutulu wrote The Code for Thug Life. So when you talk about young people in the community in the hood, get that, Google it down, it'll come down. They wrote it together, The Code for Thug Life. Second thing, how to contribute. As you driving down the street, back in the day, if you saw a young dude being pulled over by the police, you would stop your car and you would check him out. It don't happen now because the young boy's pants is down below their butt, and you automatically assume that they a thug and they done something wrong. Even if they are, stop your car, pull up. Anytime that if you got time, if you ain't rushing to your job or whatever, stop your car and just sit there if you're scared to get out. My sister talked about the fear piece. Stop your car if you're scared to get out, and make sure that they see that you're there, that you're watching. You got the camera thing now. Everybody's jumping out. But let's be a little bit more assertive, not aggressive, assertive. We can stand a certain footage away and we can ask questions. Excuse me, what has he been? Brother, you okay? And they shut up. But he didn't answer it already. He'll say, don't go nowhere. Hold right there. Stay right there. You know, but everybody needs to pass that particular tool that was an integral part of our community, as she stated, back in the day, and how we've gotten away from making that stop when we see a young black boy or a young black girl being harassed, sitting on the curb, especially we saw them sitting on the curb, we show pulled over. We say, they're on the curb, something ain't right. Now, they're on the curb, laying on their stomachs, you know, handcuffed, you know, and everybody here ride right on by. I was on a 90 bus the other day, 4 young dudes jumped a brother who was drunk. I jumped in between them. I ain't gonna jump in if they got guns and stuff. I'm not crazy. But if you work in the community, you know how to assess a situation. If you work in the community, I can train you. If you work in the community, you know how to assess it. You know how to talk to these young brothers. You don't be aggressive. Look, man, what you doing to this? Excuse me, my brother. Hold on, man. You know, and you begin to respect them. I got them to cool down. I had to move to the back of the bus. And I saw them dudes get up, and they was getting ready to fire him up. I tried to make it back to the front. This is 2 weeks ago. I tried to make it back to the front of the bus, and the bell rung right there at the big chair in Southeast Washington in the hood. As they walked off the bus, they was firing. Bam, 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 hitting the dude. Dude drunk. He trying to... I made my way up and caught the 3rd dude, and the 4th dude was banging him, so I again began to throw them around and so forth. The bus driver closed the door. The woman standing there with the baby, she getting hit, slammed all around because the bus driver's scared. So, man, open up the daggone door. He said like that. It was a little rougher than that. I said, open up the door, man. Let these people off. The woman had a baby in her hand. You think that any other brother on that bus, these are little 11, 12-year-old dudes, they wasn't 18. I would have thought about it. I would have took a different approach. I would have just dealt with the drunk dude and not them.
PTSD.
Clearly, mental health issue, post-traumatic stress slave syndrome. It comes out in every kind of way. Alcoholic and young people being aggressive against the wrong thing. Code for thug life. So again, no other black man got up and said, hey, I mean, there was some big dudes on that bus. And said, hey, if Parsi was there, we've done it before 2 or 3 times on the bus and stopped fights. Well, dude pulled out a knife. But the issue becomes, you know, but you got to understand what we're dealing with when you look at that. That ain't nothing for us to be feared about. We got to understand what that is and why that exists the way that it exists.
Barbara, can I just say,
please.
COINTELPRO has put all this in place.
Yes.
We are all in prison.
Thank you.
Some are behind the bars, but the rest of us are out here. So the bottom line is, this is all a plan, and we are all in a serious mental illness. We are all seriously mentally ill.
That's right. That's for real.
Because we don't know who we are, and they have made it. It's in the food, it's in the water, it's in the air. It's in what we hear and what we see. So what we're doing here today is another nucleus, but we have to all go and check, because it's not just the young people. It's those of our generation, those of us who went to school and never came back, okay? The people who have the households where these children live that are feeding them Cocoa Puffs for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's a plan. We need to know what the plan is. We need to study the plan. Instead of going off in 500 different directions, we need to know what their plan was, because their plan is in effect. right now. Today is Nat Turner's, I think, birthday, but it's Halloween in most of our community. And that's the middle class community, the upper class community, and those who are financially destroyed at this time. If we're going to get together, we need to go back to the root and understand that they ain't giving up without a fight. And at this particular point, they know their day is over. But they're going to take us with them. So we have to figure out how to circle the wagons. And basically, where are we going to go? Are we going to circle the wagons on this continent? Or are we going to circle the wagons somewhere else? And I'll leave it at that.
So I would just, okay, I would just like to say, you know, one is I really thank everyone for being here. On behalf of myself and Sekou and his family, his children that went from childhood to adulthood to parenthood to even grandparenthood while he was behind the wall, for his mother and father who made their transition while he was behind the wall, for his sister and his brother and his son. We are so fortunate that he's here. And, you know, I want people to when you say about being honored that he is here, understanding how many people said they never expected him to walk out the prison walls, right? But we have to know if we say that, that's going to translate into the work. And so when the brother talked about the divisions, there are so many events. We fight people for years in New York City. I would challenge people about how do you call yourself an activist and you don't have political prisoners on your program. You cannot talk about any kind of struggle, the black freedom, and that's part of why political prisoners are so marginalized and so invisible and not included, because there are people doing all kinds of work and political prisoners are not on it. So we're making strides in New York because Sekou came home. And people didn't think he was coming home. They didn't say that to me because I never believed he wasn't coming home. And so that was evident in the work that we did. I saw Sekou sitting on the living room couch. I said, no, it's going to happen. And I'm going to work like it's going to happen. So I'm not going to accept that he's not going to come home. And so if every one of us do that, if you go to an event, because we go to events and people don't talk about political prisoners, that's the separation right there. Right? So we have to make sure, because just like Sekou is sitting here, it is almost, he came home on November 25th. But there are still members of the Black Panther Party who are in prison, who will not come home as long as people believe that they will not come home and don't work like hell to make sure they come home. They are sick. Robert Seth Hayes has diabetes that is sugar levels are way up in the high 700-800s one day and then down in 30. You have Russell Maroon Schultz who has prostate cancer. You have, I mentioned about Matulu, them wanting to cut off his leg. Imam Jamil Al-Amin, his face is out to here because of the lack of medical care.
He has actually a disease, Stadler's disease, which distorts his jaws. And I mean to interrupt, but one of the things is that he is an imam, and he is a respected member of the Muslim community. And Jihad Abdul Mumid and myself have talked at masjids, and people are like, well, you know, we have funds to help prisoners, but, you know, here's this imam, and how can you be afraid to step up and take care of your elder and someone who you hold in high regard? And yet, masjids, just like churches, choose who they're going to help, and they're not into helping our prisoners. And, you know, it's totally discouraging. I just saw Matulu 2 weeks ago, Now we might be having another one of these in February for Matulu.
We might have one for Sundiata before then.
Right. And if anybody would like to write a letter to the parole board for Matulu on your letterhead, I'll be more than glad to give you the address. Because every one of them that's coming up now needs a professional letter. They don't need the community to say, oh, he's a revolutionary man, him and Tupac is going to roll in the streets when he comes home. But he needs somebody who's going to say, when Matulu comes out, Dr. Shakur is going to be able to come to D.C. and work at the acupuncture clinic with Dr. Kokai. And that's the kind of thing that he needs, just like Sekou needs somebody to say to his parole officer, here's where he's going to speak, we have a place he's going to stay, and this is what he's going to make. And that's what I had to do in order to ensure that he comes. So, you know...
yeah, so it's just important that we support, not just in word, but in big ways and in small ways. There's so many different, and if you don't know how to support a political prisoner, that's okay, because you can contact us. You can go to Jericho. I give you our phone number. Sekou is available to talk. I'm available to talk, so we can communicate, because we need to make political prisoners a part of the national conversation. There should not be any activist organization that does not have political prisoners included. And we see it all the time. And I, who have been working on behalf of political prisoners for more than 20 years, I'm sick of it. I'm sick of people, and I'm not saying, people are doing things, but they're not including political prisoners. And loving a man that was a political prisoner, or as he says, a semi-free political prisoner, right? I take serious issues with that. As a person who loves our African history and her story, I have a serious problem with people praising the dead but forgetting the living. Don't tell me how much you appreciate Nat Turner and Harriet Tubman when Kamal Siddiqui, the only reason why he's in an Augusta medical prison facility, why? Because when there was a $1 million reward on the side of his head, the FBI came to him and said, if you help us capture her, we'll give you the $1 million. If you don't, you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison. He said, well, I'm not helping you capture her. So now he's in prison for life with a whole bunch of medical issues. Asada and Kamal have a daughter and grandchildren. So people talk about Asada, but they don't talk about Kamal. The only reason why he's in prison is because he would not help the government capture her. So when we talk about supporting the black freedom struggle, then we got to talk about all the minutiae. We got to talk about all the details that make up the black freedom struggle and not the icons. We have that's how we do it. When we say we support political prisoners, then we have, what can I do on the level that I can to bring them home, so that none of us ever accept that there's going to be another Kwesi Balagoon or Albert Noah Washington or Teddy Jahi. That there's not going to be those Bashir Hamid. That there's not going to be any more of our freedom fighters being murdered behind the wall. So we got to, you know, if you get from medical neglect, right? So if you get anything from our being here, and I'm very humbled and I'm so appreciative that each one of you are here, and whatever your is that you saw that it was important enough for you to be here and to make donation, because every bit of it matters. But if you take anything from looking at this man sitting here and thinking about all the family that that was on this side of the wall while he was spread out all over the country for 28 years and then came to New York in 2009, then think about how we want to see the rest of them here and the sacrifice. And that nothing that we do is ever, as far as I'm concerned, nothing I ever do is enough. Because Sekou never got a vacation. He never got a break from being targeted as a revolutionary. He don't have a pension. He didn't have access to health care, decent food, every single thing that we get a chance to take for granted and not think anything of. Sekou and his comrades don't ever have that luxury. So they are in my mind every single day. And my work, everything I do. I met a student, because I work in a high school. He told me his name was Jaleel. I looked at him and I smiled. I said, baby, you got a great name. And I told him about Jaleel. So we can always use every single opportunity to talk about political prisoners. That's how we make sure that our story, our history and her story keeps on living, so that they don't just become pictures on a wall, but real. So I thank you for being here and for listening and be a part of this evening. And I cannot thank you, Nkechi, and the host committee for putting this together, and for Paulette and Jericho and bringing us here.
Okay. Brother Sekou, do you have any final closing words?
Again, I want to thank everybody, those who just came in since I last thanked everybody. Thank you again so much. I really do appreciate it. I really do appreciate Sister Nkechi and her husband hosting this here. I really appreciate all the conversation that I've heard. I mean, you asked me to speak, but I've been really enjoying hearing the brothers, the sisters, and everybody else speak. It's just been a wonderful night for me. Thank you again so much. I really, really appreciate everything you're doing.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. Oh yeah. Okay, I know y'all need some air. There were a whole lot of people to the